so much for coming today. I think if Charles Prince knew that Liz could draw a crowd like this, he would put her in the orchestra. My name is Tom Crownover, or Thomas Crownover. I've been known as Tom, Crowny, TC. My friends of 55 years, Keith and Chris, are here today, and they know I respond to, "Hey man." My friend of 40 years, Steve from Charleston, South Carolina, was delayed by an auto accident on his way up here, and unfortunately isn't going to make it, but he knew me as TC. Most commonly, and certainly today, most beautifully, I am known as Mr. Adam. That's part of the beauty of having a spectacular wife. We extend our thanks to Crescent Avenue Presbyterian Church for allowing us to celebrate Elizabeth Ann here today. We thank Jameson and Julie Platt for their performances that have and will grace this afternoon. Liz asked for Jameson. Julie came as a bonus. Liz and I thank everyone for all the kindnesses, gifts, and concern for Liz and I shown over the past 2 years, from her 2015 severed humerus and shoulder dislocation to her diagnosis of cholangiocarcinoma, her treatment, and her death. Special thanks go out to all those who have made life more bearable for us. Tom and Susan, Bob and Mary Ellen, Gina and Mike, Kate and Sam, John and Marcia, the Coffee Box, Laura, Greg and Mary, Peter and Paul, Jim and Donna, Oliver and Brenda, Bill and Doreen, Nancy and Lee, Doug and Barbara, Corey, Lois, and Patrick. And to so many others who I think time prevents me from mentioning, but this community is really special. 3 days after Liz died, I made and received dozens of communications, emails, phone calls, and text messages about the very sad news. Grief was upon me, and for me that means a gut pain like Muhammad Ali punched me in the stomach. In all this, a phone call comes in. An unrecognized voice says, "This is Adrian." I thought, who the heck is Adrian? And I'm thinking Rocky Balboa. Adrian! That's flashing in my mind. The voice resolved the mystery saying, "Amelia and I want to offer our condolences." So the mayor and I had a big laugh. At least I had a laugh. I said, "I know you've made a mad honey." This afternoon, there was no greater encomium than being a relative or friend of Elizabeth Ann Adam. Our family guests include Liz's sisters, Sharon from Brooklyn, Marjorie from New Mexico, Anna Therese, Liz's surrogate daughter, and her son Hugo joined us from the Bronx. My moral support also includes my daughter Christy Lynn, husband John, and grandchildren, Margot, Eve, and Andrew from Los Angeles. My sister Margaret and her son Scott from South Carolina are here, along with Jessica, who was added yesterday. They boost my spirits. Isabel is with me in spirit from Paris, and as is Jessica from Stockholm. Our first speakers are Liz's sister Marjorie and Sharon. Actually, we're going to do it separately. So Marjorie, I ask you to come up and share your thoughts and bare your heart.
Hello to all of you, and yes, I'm Margie, Elizabeth's sister, and I loved Elizabeth from the very first day my mother brought her home from the hospital. There were three of us girls in the family until Elizabeth arrived 5 years after my birth. And all of us were so excited to have a new sister. And throughout the years, Elizabeth and I were very, very close. And even when she was 3 years old and my grandparents came to pick me up to take me for a 2-week stay with them in Ordway, Colorado, Elizabeth ran out into the living room, opened my suitcase, threw out everything in it, and said, "If I can't go, then Margie can't go." So Elizabeth and I went. And a few days ago, I went through my scrapbook of my years since my mother gave me a little brownie camera at the age of 8. And one of the very first pictures in it was Elizabeth and I taking a trip to South Dakota with my Aunt Melva and her husband, Uncle Harry. And I had forgotten that Elizabeth had gone with us. But there she was in all my pictures, sitting on great big dinosaurs in Dinosaur Park in South Dakota. And I thought to myself, well, of course, how could I have gone to South Dakota if Elizabeth hadn't come with me? So, in later years, when I married a man from Japan and lived in Japan for many years, who should come and stay with me for a year but Elizabeth? And in that photo album, I found all the pictures of Elizabeth in front of Mount Fuji together at different temples that we would visit. And she gave me such a year of joy having a sister there with me in Japan. And then I fast forward to Plainfield, New Jersey. And I have to tell all of you that I really believe that Elizabeth's most enjoyable period of her life was when she came to live in Plainfield, New Jersey, and found her wonderful husband, Tom Crownover, that he brought so much joy to her life. And her association with all of her friends, all of the beautiful people in Plainfield that were so good to her, you have to know you gave her a gift. And that was, I really believe, that the last decade, and probably a little bit more, of Elizabeth's life was the happiest of her life. And believe me, I know, because I spent many hours on the telephone with Liz at more difficult time periods in her life and encouraging her just to hang in there. I always said to Liz, someday you are going to find the person that can truly love you, and things are going to get easier, things are going to get better, and you will be so glad you didn't give up, that you hung in there till you have this in your life. And it did happen for her. So thank you to all of you. My heart is broken. But it was my joy and pleasure to be with Elizabeth for 2 weeks in October after she came home from the hospital. I will always treasure that. And I will treasure the fact that all of you gave her such a beautiful last decade of her life. She loved Plainfield so much, and all of you. So thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for coming. I've been very calm until this moment, so I'll get it together. Anyway, I'm the oldest, and as the oldest, you kind of assume that the four girls were all going to kind of go out in the same order that we came into the world. So for Liz to go first was really very difficult to deal with. And as Margie said, we all adored Liz, and when we found out that my mother was pregnant, and this was quite a while after I was born, we actually, to kind of tease my father, we would be in the bedroom and we would start praying that the next one would be a girl. And my father would tell us, you have to stop that, it's just not fair. I should have a son. None of you likes to fish. It would be really nice if we had a boy. We said, no, Daddy, we want a girl. So it was just a thrilling moment to have her there. And we wanted to be the big sisters who could provide everything. And I remember one time, she was still pretty little, we pooled our money and we went to the local store and we said, well, she had a different name then, but we'll stick with Liz. Liz, you can have anything in this store you want. We had probably pooled our funds to maybe $20 or so. So we were looking around the store, and Margie and Kathy kind of punched me, and they're pointing at the price and like rolling their eyes like, oh my gosh, what if she wants this? We don't have enough money. What if she wants that? But she was a good girl, and she chose something that fit our pocketbook, so we were able to give her the big doll that she wanted. On the sister thing, I saw a set of t-shirts, which if things had lasted longer, I think I would have bought the set. And the first one said, "I'm the oldest, too many rules." And then the next one, for the middle one, said, "Mom and Dad are lightening up on the rules." And the third one was, "I'm the youngest, what are rules?" And I think that was a little bit of Liz. We had all doted on her so much. And I remember one time when she did do something that wasn't quite acceptable to the parents, and she was grounded. We woke up the next morning to see a picket line out in front of the house. Half a dozen people with big signs, "Free Liz." "Honestly, Margaret, she's sorry. Let her go. We need Liz." And that was kind of the way it went. We thought she was very funny. To us, she was beautiful and she was smart. And she had our grandfather's knack of taking kind of a mundane story, embellishing the right points and making it very funny. So we always loved that about her. Probably most of you know, she was a real nester. And no matter where she was, whether it was a Manhattan apartment or this gorgeous home in Plainfield, she knew exactly what to do to make it a wonderful, comfortable home. And very early on in New York, she had a new boyfriend, and she wanted us to come and meet him, see his apartment. We were going out to some local restaurant. So we get there, and she said, "You know, look at this ceiling. It looks like it had been painted with cottage cheese." She said, "Don't you think it would be nice if we spent a couple of hours scraping this ceiling before dinner?" So I'm like, "Oh, that sounds really fun, Liz." And Jim gave me a little punch and said, "It'd be good for your upper arms." "Yes, of course we'll do it." So we scraped paint for a couple of hours before we had our dinner.
Sharon, can you tell them about Buffy and her journey to Salt Lake City?
Oh, yes. Well, so Jim and I were living out in Portland, Oregon, and we convinced Liz that she should come see us. So my parents got her on the plane, and she was coming to meet us. We went out to the airport to meet her. No Liz. Where's Liz? We were all panicked and hysterical. Turned out that the people that were supposed to take her from one plane to the other plane somehow screwed up, and she ended up in the airport alone. And so what she did, she got one of the car drivers to take her in. I mean, she was a little girl. They took her in to Salt Lake City, and she toured the Mormon temple, and she'd go back, and I think that night she slept in the restroom. And finally, we had all kinds of people out, authorities and everyone searching. I think the airline was afraid they were going to be sued, that they'd lost this little girl. So she was found, they got her back on the plane, and she came. And at that time, so she stayed with us, and then we took the trip home, and we drove. And Jim had a convertible, a two-seater, so one of us had to ride on the middle seat, the hair flying in the wind. And so Liz did that. Anyway, there are 100 stories about that, but it was very funny. It was funny. Let me just think of some of the other things here. So I would also say that Margie and Liz, they were the youngest. And they were like two peas in a pod. They were just totally committed to each other. And Margie, putting aside her very, very busy life and coming out here to spend the 2 weeks with her was a true gift. Liz revived when she was in the hospital. We didn't think she had any time left, but she came home to hospice and she revived. She was so happy. And I think those 2 weeks, she told me that she was able to finish some of those things she had on her to do before I go list. And Margie, thank you, you allowed her to do that. And Tom, I can tell you, Margie said it, how grateful we are to you for the joy, the caring, and the kindness you showed her during her whole last decade more, and for these last few weeks for sure. So I think that, all of you here today shows that Liz had a very large and loving circle around her. That was extremely important to her, as it is to everybody. We had a wonderful minister for many years. She and we went to the same church, Dr. Boyd, and he said, when someone passes, we have grief, And he said, the grief is acceptable, it's expected, it's honest. And he said, we grieve not for the person that passes, they're going on to be with their father. We grieve for ourselves because there's this hole in our heart and we've lost a very special person. So we all share that kind of grief in the loss of Liz. Anyway, thank you, thanks for coming.
That story about Salt Lake City is one of many, many stories that illustrate the fearlessness that she was known as Buffy for most of her early years. The fearlessness that Buffy had as a child, that Elizabeth Ann had as an adult. I could tell you others, but there's other people that need to speak. She was fearless. She was fearless. Just an amazing fearlessness about death. She did not fear death. She didn't like the idea of lingering or being debilitated, but she had no fear of death. That may sound shocking to you, but she did not fear death. And if you get me over at the country club, I can tell you some other stories. We're going to hear now from, is Anna Therese? Anna Therese? Okay, while she's coming up here, I'll tell you one story about her fearlessness. I knew Liz about a week, and I'm at her brownstone at 181 Washington Park. This is August of 2005. And we're on the 5th floor, about 60 feet off the sidewalk. And she looks out the window and she says to me, Tom, there's some leaves over there in the roof line. She says, why don't you walk out on this 5-inch wide walkway and go clean those leaves out there. I looked at her. I said, I don't do that, Divine. She hops up out the window, 60 feet off the sidewalk. She was like a steel worker. And she walks over, cleans out the leaves, comes back in and says, you know, I'm going to have to work on you. Anna Therese, come on.
Hugo, you want to come with me? Can you come with me? Come on, sit down.
Hi everyone. I'm going to get emotional too. I wrote something down and I'm going to follow that. My name is Anna Therese, AT. And that's my son, Hugo, the little curly haired boy, 3 years old. I'm here today to share my emotions and some of my memories of Liz, who was a dear friend, but also like a mother to me. I was the third in line of Swedish nannies that worked for Liz in Brooklyn. It was Jessica that Tom had mentioned, and it was Elin, and then it was me. She liked the Swedish girls. So when I had a chance to go to New York, I accepted it. So today here, Elin and Jessica, who I'm friends with, share my sentiments. I first met Liz on August 20th. Her hair, with her weekend hair, all over the place. She came running to me, 2 dogs, that was her entourage at the time. There was always some dogs. And she shook my hand and we introduced ourselves to it. And we kind of been together since that day. I met her for the last time when she was in the hospital. And that was the last time I shook her hand. And we said goodbye. And we said, I love you. Because that's truly how I felt. Liz and I had a lot in common. We were green thumb Tauruses. We loved gardening. We had a small dose of patience and a big dose of stubbornness. We both rescued many animals off the street. We loved dessert. And our birthdays was 4 days apart. Maybe that's why we always got along so well. And we used to celebrate it together with a lunch or a dinner, and I'm going to continue doing that on May 8th. I'm going to buy some peonies that I know she loved, and I'm going to think about her extra much that day because that was her birthday. Ellen said something very funny when I talked to her. She said, you know, A.T., this isn't a good place. Soon there won't be any homeless dogs in heaven. And that's the truth. Liz had such a great sense of humor, sarcastic sense of humor. And we've had so much fun over the years. There's lots of stories, like Cherry said. Some may not be appropriate for this setting, but that's all I'm going to say. There's a lot of funny stories involving some cats, many more dogs, and one really old Volvo. I don't want to say goodbye today, or even see you later, because I know she's with me, asking me, A.T., are you saving enough for your retirement? And I said, probably not. A.T., do you have a large enough emergency fund? Definitely not. A.T., do you have life insurance? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. She called me her surrogate daughter, and she proved to me that family is not about DNA or your genetic composition of who you are, but who you take into your heart and who you reach out your hand to in times of need. Like I said, I'm not here to say goodbye or see you later, but show my gratitude for having to have this person in my life. Thank you, Liz, for your support in my dark times. Thank you for staying with me when I had my son Hugo. It was like a grandson. Thank you for all the stories and all the laughs. And thank you for always reminding me of my courage and my strength. So I know it's until I see you next time, but thank you, Liz. I love you. Thank you.
Afternoon. It was my very good fortune to meet Liz 10 years ago when she and I were part of a group of 12 women who got together to travel to India. Each of us knew at least one person in the group, though not necessarily the same one person. Most of us knew no one other than our lone personal contact. So it was like going out on a massive blind date. A blind date that was going to last 10 days in a profoundly unfamiliar and frankly intimidating place. This was going to work, or it wasn't. And oh, did it work. Part of the reason it worked was Liz. She was game for adventure, she was generous in spirit, a continuously bright light. No one on that trip will ever forget the sight of Liz rocking that orange sari, wearing sunglasses and looking for all the world like a Bollywood movie star. Even as she sat on our tour bus, dutifully figuring out who owed how many rupees for this meal or that, she was gracious and funny, elegant and essential. 9 out of those 12 travelers bonded at a very deep level, and I will say that I am speaking on behalf of all of us, I believe, today. Rox and Jill, who are here, Mary, who couldn't be here, Anne, Janice, both of whom got sick today and are desperately unhappy that they couldn't be with us, Gail and Carol. 9 of those people bonded, and those 10 days became the prelude to a decade of friendship and connection that have only grown deeper as we each followed the journeys of our individual lives, but kept coming back to one another for support and ballast, insight and laughter, and for Jill, half a bottle of Kingfisher. Liz was at the heart of this web of connection. I saw her last in August, when 3 of us from the India trip, Mary, Gail, and I, came out for an extended visit while, Tom, you were doing a road trip down south. It was at a time when Liz was feeling good, feeling, as she put it, like Liz again. She was energetic and delighted to be hosting us. She had, in fact, spent several days cooking up a ton of food to welcome us. It was my first visit to that remarkable house, her masterpiece, and I was literally speechless on entering. In all honesty, I had the worst case of kitchen envy in my life. As Liz took us through each room, she was animated and full of stories to share. Her sense of history, her eye for beauty, her uncanny ability to find a good deal, and her exuberant spirit were in evidence everywhere. But it was a walk in the garden that August afternoon that I will cherish forever. There she was, leading us into the heart of a magical place. She seemed most at home in the garden, teeming with life in late summer, in full blossom, vital and vibrant in every way. And that is how I will remember her. Teeming with life, in full blossom, vital and vibrant in every way. Hers was and remains, as I wrote Tom, a shining soul. May her memory be a blessing always.
I'm Dawn. Have you ever had the experience of meeting someone and immediately being attracted to that person? There is something about them which upon first impression you cannot quite define, but there's something really special. Of the many people who come in and out of your life, this one person makes you stop and say, I want to know that person. I want to be a friend. Elizabeth was that person for me. I was the oldest of 4 daughters, and I totally understand and expect for me to go first. I don't know how you bear the pain. I can't imagine losing my sisters, as much as they drive me crazy sometimes. I've known Elizabeth since about 1985, after I had my second child, Zach. A friend of a friend referred her to discuss life insurance. I had met many a life insurance agent, and so had my husband, Ken. We met her, we liked her, we trusted her. That began both a professional and personal relationship, which has spanned 30 plus years. It was a mutual admiration society for us. Liz became a devoted customer of my husband, Ken, and now my son, Zach, eco-friendly dry cleaner. As you know, Elizabeth did love to dress stylishly and beautifully. I never saw Elizabeth dressed in anything but the most beautiful outfits. Like her personality, she loved bright colors, and with her beautiful soul, inside and out, she often looked beautiful and sometimes radiant. Elizabeth was kind almost to a fault, and would do anything to help someone or some animal in need. When we had difficult times, Elizabeth was there for us, both as a consummate financial professional, but more importantly, as a devoted friend. Elizabeth had an awesome sense of humor and was able to laugh at herself, and she would make me smile and make me laugh. Even when Elizabeth went through some of her most difficult years, I was her divorce attorney, so I was with her. She would be crying and hiccuping, and through her sniffles she would say, oh my God, I messed up my makeup. What am I gonna do? Or, I should stop crying. People have it so much worse than I do. Her devotion to her dogs was legendary in Brooklyn. She would bring the dogs to our store in Dumbo or Court Street for the doggy treats we always had for them. Elizabeth loved to travel. She didn't really feel she had ever traveled enough. She wanted to go everywhere. She worked very hard at her job, but also she worked very hard at the important things in life. She loved her home, and she had a keen eye for what was aesthetically beautiful. I am sure many of you saw the amazing renovation she did on her home on Washington Street in Fort Greene. Elizabeth picked every item down to the doorknobs. She was cost conscious, so she would shop them herself on the internet to get the best deal. She had an eye for beauty. While it was a sad day for Liz when she had to sell that home, she also expressed her sense of accomplishment for taking on and completing such a daunting project. Elizabeth was with me and cheered me on when I started my own law firm in 1992. She watched it grow from a firm of me to a firm of 8 and growing. She managed my employee benefits and met each person to discuss what she could do for them. When my staff heard of Elizabeth's death, they were so sad, and each one of them came to me separately and said, "She was such a lovely person. Please give her family our best." My children grew up knowing Elizabeth as our financial person, but also our dearest friend. Elizabeth had a unique quality, and in the era of internet communications, I think it's become so much more important. It's a quality that we should all emulate. She had the quality of being a good listener. She genuinely wanted to know what was happening in your life. She did not get that glazed look that people get when they ask you about yourself and you actually start to tell them and they're looking over your head. She cared and she remembered. Elizabeth went through some tough times, but she also had some wonderful times. The wonderful times for Elizabeth were her years with you, Tom. You made her happy. You made her feel special. You made her feel loved. When she called me to tell me she was marrying you, she sounded so in love and so happy. And she was happy despite her illness. Through all her pain, you were there for her, steadfast, supportive, caring, and we thank you. I know your loss is enormous, and the sadness is profound. I know Elizabeth would want nothing more than to comfort you, and we need to do it in her place. While I know that you must grieve, at the end of that grief, when you come up for air, you will know that she would want nothing more than for you to have happiness. We all know life is a gift. Every day is a gift. Elizabeth's life was way too short for me and for you and for the world, but she was a gift to all of us. Let's honor her gift by modeling her caring and her kindness in our daily lives. We will miss you, Liz. We always love you. We want you to be at peace.
Hi, I'm Kathy, and Liz was my friend. I was really hoping I'd be at a podium because I had to make the font big enough so I could see without my reading glasses. So it looks like I have a novel here. I really do. This is not something I ever thought I would be doing, nor do I want to do it at all. And I cannot cry because I can see her sitting there with those green glasses on, arms crossed, saying, "Girlfriend, buck up, no tears." I met Liz 18 years ago at the photocopier in the Chrysler Building. I was a brand new representative at Northwestern Mutual Life. Liz was there and she was dressed fabulously. She had on these really high heels. I was impressed that she could walk in them. They had these red bottoms. I think those are Louis Vuittons. She had a jacket and a pocketbook that were the same color, like a mustard yellow. She had a strawberry blonde wavy hair. She had all this energy. She was photocopying and stapling with precision. She turned to me and said, "Hello, I'm Elizabeth Adam. Who are you?" And I said, "I'm Kathy Mullen. I just started here." And we had a brief conversation. And I knew in that instant that I really liked her. She had on all this jewelry, really big pieces of jewelry. I was like, wow, that's really nice costume jewelry. I'll have to ask her where she got it. It was all real. This is my crutch, so don't mind me. It's giving me little breaks. When I heard that Liz died, it was a shock. To think that I will never speak to her again, that I will never gain her insights, because she was really good at listening to you and giving you really good feedback. And most importantly, that I will never again hear her laugh. She had a great laugh. I asked a number of people in a word or two if you could describe Liz. And I got a lot of the same words, so it's kind of a recurring theme. She was grand. She was fabulous. She was smart, funny, unique, and eccentric. Has anyone ever been to Liz's home for anything? A casual get-together, a formal dining affair, or a holiday, or a fundraiser? It was always beautiful and over the top. There was always cloth napkins. There was never potato chips and pretzels and dip. It was always really formal with all the dishes and the glasses. She always made you feel special when you were in her home. She loved having parties. In Brooklyn one time, on the house that she restored, she really should have been a general contractor. She had an eye and was amazing at bringing beauty to things. But not gonna lie, we were out having a couple of cocktails. We're on the subway platform, and there's a man playing the saxophone, and he has his case in front of him, and he was pretty good, and people are putting tips in. She says to me, you know, I'm gonna ask him if he'll come play at my party tomorrow night. And I'm like, you are not. Sure enough, she goes up, asks him, will you come and play? I live on DeKalb Avenue in Brooklyn. I'll give you $200 if you play a couple of sets. She writes down her name, her phone number, and her dress, and then we hop in the train. I'm like, are you out of your mind? You just invited a total stranger to come play at your house. The next day, it was a Saturday, I get to her house a little bit early to help her set up. Fast forward, there's a knock on the door. There's that saxophone guy. And he walks into the house and he plays, and it was fabulous. Has anyone ever received a gift from Liz? The thought that she put into buying you something, the way she wrapped it, the ribbon, you almost felt guilty opening it, right? She was really organized, probably a little borderline OCD, Tom, I don't know. But one time she had a number of us out at our house, and in here in Plainfield, and it's a beautiful home, it had all these closets. She opened up her linen closet, I'm not kidding. The sheets were all folded and they were wrapped up with ribbon. I was like, oh my gosh, if you saw my linen closet, you'd made up, things are falling down. She had closets for her shoes. They were arranged by color and heel height and style. She had a closet for vases. She was fabulous. It was really important to Liz to belong, to be loved, and to have a home. In a career where success was sometimes measured by how many ribbons you had or what your production numbers were, sometimes that made her feel a little bit less than it should have. And we used to talk about that, and I would always say, none of that stuff is a measure of success. It's about the people you touch and the life you lead. And I ask you to all look around this church. Liz, I hope you're feeling this, all the love here and how successful you are and how much you're going to be missed. Community was really important to her too. And with Tom, she found a home with you, and she found Plainfield as her community. She was very involved. She was involved with the symphony. She used to have fundraisers at her home for animals, for the symphony, for different political events. She had a lot of causes that were important to her. When I was at Liz's home in September, we were talking about a lot of things, and she was very open and would speak often about dying. There was a lot she wanted to get done, and she had all these lists. I told her, I think on some level, it had to have been wonderful to have gone through this process because she spent so much time with so many of you here today, special time. And Liz didn't always feel that she was loved. I don't know why, but she didn't. And what she told me was, She felt it the greatest gift that she was able to spend time with all of you, and how much good that made her. It made her glow inside. She spent time with her travel friends. She spent time with the people from her book clubs. I think she was in 2 of them. She made time for her neighbors here from Brooklyn and from here in Plainfield. She spent time with her coworkers. She rescued animals. Oh my God, did she rescue animals. She set up these elaborate plans to capture all these feral cats, Tom, in Brooklyn, that then you took with you to Plainfield. And I know, these things, and she always had dogs too. But these cats, I'll never forget this one time. I was at her house, and we go into her bedroom. She wanted to get something. You open the door. You had to keep the cats and the dogs separated because, they didn't all get along all the time. You open the door, and I'm not kidding, 12 heads turn around. There are all these cats. They're everywhere. They're on the bed, they're on the dresser, they're on the windowsill, and they're all turning. And I'm like, Liz, I didn't think you had that many cats. And she's like, oh, they're not all mine. They're the neighborhood cats. They just come up and hang out. She had her bedroom window wide open, and why not? The place was fabulous. It was beautiful. There was a litter box, water, and food. She was so grand. Dogs. She loved her dogs. And as long as I've known her, she's always had at least 2. There was one time when she was living in Brooklyn, she referred to this man as a sock man. He was a borderline homeless guy who was a little bit of a drug addict, and he would sell socks to get money to buy the food for the dogs. So Liz used to come to my office now and then and throw these trouser socks at me. I'm like, what are you doing? I don't wear green trouser socks. And she's like, well, I had to buy all these trouser socks. What do you want me to do with them? Just take them. And one morning, on the way to her job, she opens up her front door, and there's a note from this guy saying, I'm sorry, I can't cat it anymore. Please take care of my dogs. It was Barkley and his brother, and Barkley and Winston, and they were these beautiful English labs that she took with her from Brooklyn to Plainfield. That's our Liz. She loved to entertain, she loved the garden, she loved fine things, she loved restoring beauty in an old home. She was also a little crazy, a little dramatic, and always a story. So many stories. And again, not all are totally appropriate, but I'll go with a few. So one time when she lived on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, it was Christmas Eve. And she was going to a movie with a friend of hers. They were online. And behind her on the line was this man. Fast forward, this man is Pierce Brosnan. He is AKA James Bond, a really hot Irish actor. I think he's gorgeous, right? So anyway, they sit next to each other, the 3 of them. They have the movie. After the movie, because Liz had just had a party the night before, they go back to her apartment and they eat dessert for 2 hours. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? And she's like, what do you mean? He's really short. That was Liz. She really was fearless. The woman was in her home 2 different times when it was burglarized, and one time I had the fortune of being on the phone with her. I'm in the office, she was working from home, and we're on the phone talking about work stuff. And she's like, she hears something break. She's like, those damn cats, they must be knocking over the Christmas decorations. And then she hears something else, and she's like, Kathy, I think someone's in the house. Okay, don't hang up on me. If you hear gunshots or anything that sounds really bad, call 911. I'm like, what are you doing? She's gone. I'm hearing, hello, hello? I can't say what she really said, but to the effect, get out of my house. Right? And you hear yelling and chattering, and she picks up a phone in the other part of the house, and she's like, I just chased this man out of my house. Can't believe you have the nerve to be in there. And so she chased him down 2.5 flights of stairs. She was fearless. Another time, again with her dogs, this involved Shelby, one of her probably most favorite dogs. She used to walk the dogs in Fort Greene Park, no matter the time, no matter what time of day it was. So this is in the evening. And she's in the park walking her dogs, Shelby is one of them, and these 3 individuals approach her, and one of them has a gun, and says, I want your money, or I'm gonna shoot your dog. Do not mess with that woman's dogs. She dropped the leash, got in the guy's face, and says, if you think you're going to shoot my dog, I'm going to kill you. She chased these 3 muggers out of the park. That was our Liz. She loved to travel. One time we were at work, there were these like new client trips, and one time we were in Cozumel and we were snorkeling. We were in the water and we're snorkeling and we're near each other. She grabs my arm and she points down below. Look down underneath us and there's like, I don't know, like 4 sharks. I'm like, okay. So we start swimming back to the catamaran. Well, Liz starts making the Jaws music sound, dun dun, and I'm like, shut up! So we're half laughing, half crying, barely getting into the catamaran. She's yelling to the guy, where is the tequila? Right? He goes to pour a shot. She's like, no. Takes the bottle, does a swig, and gives me a swig. We had the wonderful fortune to travel to Argentina together. That was really the trip of a lifetime. And I swear to God, we saw so many rainbows. It was just beautiful scenery. She loved adventure. But again, she's a little bit of a rule breaker. So we're in this place called Iguazu Falls, and it's on the border of Argentina and Brazil. Unbelievably beautiful. And it's 110 degrees, and we're kind of being stupid. If you saw my Facebook post, I'm wearing a white t-shirt, she's in white pants. We get soaking wet on this ride through the waterfalls, looking very inappropriate, but it was hysterical, so we had to take pictures. But there were these signs around that said, no food at this point. They had these areas where they kind of corralled you in if you wanted to eat anything, because there's all sorts of wild animals there. So, Liz doesn't like to be told what to do. So we're having these ice cream bars, and she tells me I'm a wuss because I'm staying in the area that they say don't leave. She walks about 5 feet out of the perimeter and is immediately surrounded by these really bizarre looking things, kind of like raccoons. They're like rainforest raccoons called coati or something. They got this really long striped tail, but they travel in packs. Within instants, she is surrounded by these animals that are hissing at her. She starts laughing, goes, well, you want my damn ice cream. She throws it at them and runs away. It was quite fun. That was our Liz. She used to have a Vespa when she lived in Brooklyn, and she loved exploring new neighborhoods. I used to go out there and we used to hop on the Vespa and go around like Red Hook and all parts of Brooklyn before it was hip and happening or safe. But that was fun. She also loved her friends. We went out often. She really was a dear, dear friend. Life is going to be so dull with her not around to contribute to the stories and to everything. There was a time where we were out, and fast forward, she had to spend the night in a parking garage because when she got there and went to move her car, the garage was closed, so she had to spend the night in her car in a parking garage. She was always good to rescue a friend. Another time, there was someone that was trapped in a bathroom stall. Liz, all dressed in her finest, shimmied on the floor to get into that stall to rescue that friend. There was, again, fearless. Maybe it was the Colorado in her, but one time there was this really bad snowstorm or blizzard, and our coworker and friend, Elaine, was having a holiday party in her home in Brooklyn. And Liz calls me up and she goes, people are gonna wuss out. We're not wussing out. She's living in Plainfield, Tom. She gets in the car, drives. She's like, oh, there's no one on the road. I'm like, of course, it's a freaking blizzard. She drives from Plainfield, picks me up in Manhattan. Then we drive to Elaine in Brooklyn, stay there, have a fabulous time, and then she brings half the party home because the subways weren't running. That was Liz. She loved going to plays, and she really liked dramas, and she actually kind of liked depressing plays. I don't like depressing plays. I don't mind a good drama, but I don't like depressing plays. One year on my birthday, she brings me to a play, and it's starring David Hyde Pierce. He's the guy that's Niles from Frasier, so I think I'm going with comedy. I'm really excited. Moments before the curtain goes up, she grabs my hand and says, I'm really sorry, it's not funny. It's going to be a depressing play. I promise you'll get you lots of drinks. Nobody else would go with me, so I figured I'd take you for your birthday. I'm like, oh my God! The curtain goes up, David Hyde Pierce is screaming because his daughter has just killed herself. I'm like, there was a lot of cocktails that night. She was so generous. One time she went on a trip, I think I did one thing for her. She came back and got me like an Italian leather jacket. So generous. The only thing I know she wanted to do that she didn't get to was to see the Grand Canyon. So every single person here, get out that bucket list, look at it, and start crossing stuff off each and every year, okay? She'd want that. Liz, know you were home, know you belonged, and that you were loved. You will be missed more than you know. You will be remembered, and you will always be my friend. So up in heaven braise that really fine champagne flute that's filled with the best champagne heaven has to offer. Sit back and relax. I cannot wait to see how you redecorate heaven. I'm gonna miss you. Thanks so much. To a life well lived, to our Liz.
Hi everyone, my name is Mary Cahill, and I have known Liz for a very long time. We met each other in New York City in October. Is this better? Okay, I'm sorry, I'll start again. I'll introduce myself again. My name is Mary Cahill, and I have known Liz for a very long time. We met in New York City in October of 1982, 35 years ago. I had just moved to Manhattan and was getting settled in, starting a new job, and I only knew one other person in the city, and that was Suzanne Cox, who's sitting right there in row 3. Suzanne decided to give a brunch in her apartment because she has some friends and she wanted to introduce them to one another. So she invited me and about 5 other people, one of whom was Liz. Liz struck me as a person who would just be a lot of fun to get to know. She was lively, she was vivacious, she was funny. After about a week, the phone rings and there's Liz on the phone. And she said that she was going to go to the Halloween parade in the village, and would I like to go with her? And I just thought this sounded wonderful. I was delighted. We went and we just had a great time. Liz and I discovered that we had a lot in common. We were both about the same age, we were both single, and both relatively new to New York. And soon we became fast friends. Now, New York City in the 1980s could be a difficult place for a single woman to live. There was a lot of uncertainty about jobs, uncertainty about keeping a job with all the layoffs going on, uncertainty about careers. Meeting men seemed to be easy, but having a good dating relationship could be difficult. So there were ups and there were downs, but there was the one constant that Liz and I had in our lives, and that was our friendship. We were there for each other, and we really helped each other out. Liz was a heck of a lot of fun to be with. She was always energetic, always full of adventure, and Liz always liked pretty things. She liked makeup. She liked pretty clothes. She liked antique furniture. Liz had her CPA and was working at Citibank when she decided to get an MBA and concentrate in marketing. After graduating, she got her dream job, Director of Marketing for Estee Lauder. What could be better, being surrounded by makeup, having Leonard Lauder as a boss, and being surrounded by all this glamour. She loved it. Liz also liked pretty clothes. And of course, Manhattan was just the perfect place to live if you wanted to spend a lot of time shopping. And even though neither of us had a lot of money at that time, we had a great time shopping. We would go into Saks, we would go into Bergdorf's, knowing that we couldn't afford these clothes, we could go into the designer sections and just try on dress after dress after dress, posing in front of the mirror, pretending that we were movie stars. Liz also liked having a pretty house and had a wonderful sense of style and of value. She loved antiques, and we had many excursions all over Manhattan and Connecticut while we were looking for affordable antiques for our apartments. Later on, Liz moved from the Upper West Side of Manhattan to Brooklyn, where she rented 2 floors of a brownstone, and she began furnishing it with her lovely antiques. It was beautiful. Liz decided to have it included in one of the local house tours, and so I offered to help her get ready. Everything was perfect, everything. There were flowers in the vases. There were all these nice knickknacks all around. Liz had beautiful sheets on her bed, which she had hand ironed so that when she folded it back, it would look just so. Liz also had 2 cats. They were very old, ancient cats. And one of the cats decided to take a nap on the bed. Liz was upset about this because she didn't want visitors to see cat fur on her newly ironed sheets. So about 15 minutes before people were scheduled to start arriving, Liz decided to move the cat. At which point, the cat decided to throw up all over Liz's sheet. Well, Liz, of course, was just apoplectic, and then the people started to arrive. So Liz was showing them around, and it was my job to get the sheet clean, get it re-ironed, and get it back on the bed. Everything worked out okay. Our lives continued to parallel each other, even when we each decided to move away from New York. I moved to Philadelphia. Liz moved here to Plainfield. I switched my career into the not-for-profit world, and Liz became a personal financial planner. We both moved into lovely houses, and most importantly, we both met wonderful men to spend the rest of our lives with.
I'm Karen, and I'm a member of the Brooklyn Book Club that Liz helped to start. And I'm here to speak not just on my behalf, but on behalf of all of the members of our book club. That's Betsy and Debbie, Cynthia and Catherine. I met Liz about 9.5 years ago. The book club has been in existence for more than 11 years. And I'm really sorry that I didn't know her longer because she was such a light in my life. Liz really was the heartbeat of our book club. She always came prepared. If someone picked a book, even if she didn't like it, she would read it. She would share her insights with us. And often, as everyone else has said, she would make us laugh, even when we were reading something that wasn't so funny. All of these stories that I've been hearing as I was sitting, waiting for my turn, just are so familiar because Liz was a very special person who thought about everyone. She was a very gracious, kind, thoughtful, caring person. And all through this time that she's been ill, it was never about her. She was always thinking about other people that she knew that didn't feel well. She would worry about them and say how much she admired them. And she just lived life with such wonderful strength and graciousness. I know that she missed living in Brooklyn. Well, she loved Plainfield, and obviously she has a wonderful life here. But when she came to Brooklyn, it was as if she were home. And I was very lucky in that Liz and I did not live in the same area as the book club members. Most of them live in Fort Greene. I lived in Brooklyn Heights. So when she was coming in from New Jersey, she would offer to pick me up and take me home. And I really treasure those moments that I had with her during those car rides. But when we got to Fort Greene, we would be looking for a parking space and then going, we would be going around and around as we do in Brooklyn. And, she just would decide, well, I'm going to go up a couple of blocks. So sometimes I would think, we could have just parked where I lived and then walked here because it was such a far distance. But that didn't faze Liz. But once we got a parking space in the neighborhood, often we'd get out of the car and Liz would meet someone that she knew, and lo and behold, she wanted to know what was going on in their lives, what the latest problems were, and she really was concerned, and she would listen. And sometimes we would arrive late to the book club because Liz had met someone who wanted to tell her all of their problems and difficulties. But she was someone who didn't give up on where she had lived, the people that she had surrounded herself with, and she was always interested in everyone that she knew. And even if she moved someplace else, she was still as interested as if she lived there. The neighborhood to her was as important to her as when she lived there, as when she moved to Plainfield. So I really admired her ability to connect with people. She always was very, very generous to all of us in the book club. Every year we would make a yearly trip to Plainfield once she moved here, because she would feel badly about not being able to host a book club. We would have dinner, someone would make dinner, and the rest of us would bring the wine or the dessert. And when we would come to Plainfield, she would say, please don't bring anything, just bring yourselves. And of course, we'd get here and a banquet would be laid out for us. And God bless Tom, he was very gracious and he put up with all of us. And also our significant others were invited to come. And so we really had a wonderful time. We might not have always discussed the book because we were always being regaled with Liz's different stories. And she really, really made us laugh so much. And she really was the light of our book club. And we are going to miss her. We're going to miss our outings here very, very much. And it's going to be a very dull book club without her. But I think that one of the things we need to do is to emulate Liz's ability to be courageous, to take her kindness and live our lives the way she lived hers, and keep her alive in that way. So thank you for your
time. I'm reading this for Ellen Galvin. I met Liz when we were in our 20s and starting our first real jobs out of college. We were first-year staff accountants amongst a group of at least 100 to 150 accountants hired that summer by one of the larger accounting firms in New York City. The positions we held were considered good jobs, and we were eager to start our road to success. Days into our new jobs, Liz heard that one of our peers was spreading malicious rumors about me. She approached this woman and told her that what she was saying was ridiculous, and she should stop spreading these rumors. Right after that, she walked over to me and introduced herself. Now, doesn't that sound exactly like Liz? From then on, we became good friends. Our friendship continued for over 40 years. There was so much to admire about Liz. She was strong, determined, and unflinching in what she believed was right or wrong. She was kind, compassionate, and a great listener. She was also very smart and so talented. At times, she could get herself into the craziest situations. My husband asked me when we could have an evening of telling crazy and funny Liz stories. I said, not yet. My very dear friend Liz, any words I could think of would probably not describe how very special she was and how much she will be missed. Liz, may you rest in peace, and please know that you are very loved. I'm very honored and grateful to have known you and to have you as my very dear friend.
Good afternoon. I'm Sam from Brooklyn, great friend of Liz's, and
I'm Kate Lawrence.
And I just wanted to say, in listening to all these wonderful stories, what a remarkable group of friends and family Liz had. And I could actually physically see Liz doing all of these things that you guys have all been talking about. Chasing the burglar down the staircase, her finger in the nose of that mugger in the park with the dogs. And I also remember her talking about the leaves on the ledge on the 6th floor of her house at 181. I said, God damn it, Tom, why can't you just go out there and get those leaves? Just go do it, why can't you do that? And I think it was 8 years ago when we were here visiting because we were having dinner at the pool, and she looked at you and she said, you know, she was told that story, and she looked at you and said, you know, Tom, I think you would do that now. Tom passed to me this, see if I can read this, wonderful letter on very fancy formal letterhead with emblems and seals and everything on it that he'd like me to read. Letterhead from the city of Plainfield, Office of the Mayor, dated November 11th, 2017. Let's see if I can do this. To friends and family of Mrs. Elizabeth Adam. As Mayor of the City of Plainfield, First Lady Amelia Mapp and I would like to extend our condolences and deepest sympathy to our friend, Thomas Cronover, on the loss of his beloved wife, Mrs. Elizabeth Adam. We were saddened to learn of Liz's passing. Elizabeth, affectionately known as Liz, was a kind-hearted soul and with an affectionate smile, and would light up a room when she entered. Liz was a treasure in the Plainfield Symphony. She loved the Plainfield community and the historic architecture. Liz and her husband Tom renovated one of the significant homes in Plainfield that is greatly admired by so many. Liz will be remembered for her tireless acts of kindness and unwavering commitment to her family and to the many lives she profoundly touched. Her joyful spirit will sorely be missed. May the outpouring of love you have received since Liz's parting serve as a reminder for you and your family and how much she was loved by all who knew her. May the blessings of the Lord keep you at peace during your time of bereavement. Please know that Amelia and I will keep your entire family in prayer and encourage you to seek healing power from the heavens above as you prepare to lay your loved one to rest. Give all your worries and cares to God, for he cares about you. With deepest sympathy, Adrian Mapp, Mayor.
Ode to Liz. We met Liz Adam while she was renovating 181 Washington Park in Fort Greene, Brooklyn. A friend had recommended my services in designing her garden. I walked into the midst of construction debris, noise, dust all around. She directed me to her townhouse garden, which was just dirt. I never got a chance to design the garden in Fort Greene, but we became great friends anyway. I mean, both of us were Torians.
Liz was a woman full of life. She loved beautiful antiques and flowers, and most of all, she loved sharing with her friends and neighbors. She hosted, without a doubt, the best parties in Fort Greene.
I remember a party on Christmas Eve. She had spent all week preparing so she would be ready to host in her fashion. As the house filled, she remained in the kitchen whipping dozens and dozens of egg whites for her homemade eggnog. And then she'd tell us, "Hey, you guys, you go upstairs, have a good time. I'm not quite ready. Whip it, whip it, whip it." Liz had this way of making absolutely certain everything was just right and everybody around her was happy.
The night was full of joy, full of songs of celebration, full of fantastic cuisine Liz always seemed to be able to pull out of her hat. How she had time to do all that, we will never know. It's funny, many years later, Liz mentioned to us, "You remember that Christmas tree decorating party I hosted a couple of years ago? Well, after everyone left, I took all the ornaments off in the middle of the night and redecorated the tree to its proper form." "I think I'm a bit crazy," she said.
This was Liz, always willing to give her friends the best times, the best of herself. Liz had this uncanny way to walk into a room and it would light up. She walked into the Fort Greene Christmas party one year and won all 12 raffles. The next year, she did the same thing again. She came to so many events at our home. I remember a party when we finished the kitchen renovation. She grabbed me by the arm and swung me around, teaching me how to swing dance to a Glenn Miller's orchestra. I will always remember that evening. At this stage in Liz's life, she was going through a horrible divorce and forced separation from her loving home that she decorated to the nines. This was a sorrowful time for Liz, but she persevered as she always did, standing strong, looking forward to capture a new chapter in her life. As one door closes, another one opens. The door was to Tom. Tom was a sheer blessing to Liz, and gathered, they found a new home, new bearings, and a new life, and found all of you.
As our great friend, we were always amazed at her character. Always helping other people, always being kind, always smiling, always inclusive, always looking forward, always putting other people before herself. Liz had a good heart and lived a good, fulfilling life. Liz was a woman full of life. She simply loved beauty.
But most of all, she loved beautiful people. People whose lives she enriched, people who appreciated what she gave the world in her special way, people who stuck by her through thick and thin, love and sorrow, people like you who have taken time out of your busy lives to celebrate her life. We will miss you, Liz.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to come up and speak? Please come on up.
Good afternoon, I'm Tom Karcher. I'm one of the neighbors of the last 12 years, and what a blessing it is to know Liz Adam. I heard once years ago at a funeral, someone stand up and say, "I was that person's best friend." But she said, I look around this room and I realize that was true of everybody, and it's so true of Liz. When you were Liz, you had her full attention. She was gracious, she was kind, she was loving, she was concerned about everybody, more than herself. And such an accomplished person, as you've heard before, a CPA, an MBA, a CFO of a corporation, and personal financial advisor to multi-millionaires. But when you knew Liz, she was Liz. She was your friend. She was your good friend, your dear friend who was concerned about you. I mean, it was remarkable to me as a neighbor. She'd come back from a day in New York City of high finance. You see her in the garden in her old grubby clothes, grubbing around, face full of dirt, just happy as a clam. There were no airs. She was such a humble person. You would never know by meeting Liz that she was at all the person that she was. She was a light to the world. She was a force of nature. She walked around, she lit it up. There's so many great stories. But I've just been so blessed to know her as a friend, and she is an inspiration to me about how the detail. I mean, you go to her house for a party, it wasn't one entree for dinner, there were 6. She's the only person I knew who bought a grand piano because it was a nice place to serve the hors d'oeuvres. It's a great table for hors d'oeuvres. And there'd be half a dozen exquisite hors d'oeuvres, 6 desserts. And oh yeah, she found a recipe for a homemade lemonade she made in her spare time when she wasn't doing a zillion other things. And of course, when she took on a house, it wasn't she has gorgeous taste. It wasn't that she just did the house or had people come in. She was doing the work with them. She was general contractor for her own kitchen, this amazing kitchen, and she was painting and spackling and doing all the work there. And there was one day she called up and could we come help because she and Tom were taking down the ceiling of the porch and he dropped the porch roof on himself. We helped get him out of the porch roof because it was just, they were doing those things. And of course, Tom was the wonderful person who took care of her and was the slave labor in the household. There were things to do. One day Tom was walking the dogs, taking a break, and he got caught up with Doug Rankin and me chatting with the dogs. And all of a sudden Liz just drove up in the car, gracious as possible, just inquired if Tom was okay. I mean, it was time to get back to work. He'd been away for too long with the dogs. So yeah, and she was gracious to a fault. If you ever had her over, she would always follow up with a wonderful, beautifully written thank you card. And in probably the final gift of her life, the day after she died, in our mailbox was a thank you card for what we had done to take care of her or help her in the last year. And for those of you who have ever gotten a note from Liz, and you saw that beautiful, strong, gorgeous script she wrote with, you could realize from this note what a struggle it was for her to write them. Because the handwriting was mostly gone. It was you could see it was hard for her to write. But she took the time, and we weren't the only ones, to express her gratitude for what we did for her. And we were all so very blessed to know her. Thank you.
Just a quick minute to echo some of the things that folks have said. Liz is a first cousin of mine, and I've known her for a long time. As you've heard, some folks live their lives at 30 miles an hour, some live their lives at 55 miles an hour, and some live their lives at 90 miles an hour. Liz Adam lived her life at 90 miles an hour. And not that she was running 90 miles an hour, she might have been, but she was just alive at 90 miles an hour. And I spent one summer with my Aunt Margaret, and Liz was in the household. She set high standards for herself, but she also had high standards for other folks. And at the end of the day, if waiting tables, people didn't leave an appropriate tip, she'd make mention of that. And her wrath could be spread on the bus driver if he was pulling away when she was running to get on the bus, or a college professor that came unprepared for class, or this building superintendent that wasn't doing the job, or even the New York City Police Department. You've heard people talk about her fearlessness. She once told me that she had gotten her purse snatched and she was tired of it. So she called up the New York City Police Department. She gave them her name and her address, and she told them what she was going to do the next time somebody grabbed her purse. So fearlessness. And Liz also, she grew up in Denver, Colorado. I had a nice apartment in Boulder, Colorado. We both attended the University of Colorado. And when I was moving out, she was looking for a place, and she moved in. And I came back to visit a few months later, and I couldn't believe it was the same place. It had been painted. It had beautiful flowers and beautiful furniture. It wasn't the college apartment I lived in. It was beautiful. That gift for beauty was there, and we had a snack. And she pared an apple, and it was a beautifully pared apple. Where did she learn that? I don't know. And even though Denver, Colorado is a pretty good-sized town, it was too small for Liz. I don't know any of you that go to New York City, you walk around in the city, there's a certain electricity in the air in New York City that isn't in any other city. And Liz once told me, when I got off of the airplane at John F. Kennedy, I felt like I was home for the first time in my life. In the world, New York City is where the electricity is, and she was exactly that kind of a person. And we've heard stories about Liz, but if you've ever been in the presence to listen to Liz tell a story, what a magical experience that is. Because there's a little bit of a history of storytelling in my family, but if Liz is telling you about an event that happened in her life, well, her voice inflection, and her face, and her arms would be waving, and you felt like you were there experiencing the same thing that happened to her, because she was just so alive to it. And I guess the thing that is going to stay with me the longest about my cousin, there was a gentleman who wrote a book about the precious present. And Liz, my cousin Liz, she lived life in the precious present every day, just in the people that she was with, to the nature, to the world around her. And I think that's really what I'm going to do, and I hope other people do, is to say, live life at night, but she lived in the present, precious present, and I think if we all do that, we'll do well to honor her. So.
Just one last story for me. Before Liz's diagnosis during the summer, I guess it was 2 years ago, two ministers walk up to our home, and I'm sitting on the porch reading, and we have this wonderful porch with white fluted columns around this 25 by 12 foot area. This was the ceiling that fell on me. And the ministers say to me, a New Baptist church, we're going to open a New Baptist church and we'd like you to come. And by the way, here's a pamphlet. Tells you how to get to heaven. I looked around at our white fluted columns. I looked at the shrubbery around the koi pond. I thought of our dozens and dozens and dozens of friends here in Plainfield, and I thought, we kind of think we're already there. And I think that Liz is feeling right at home where she is now. And with that, I'm going to ask Julie to come help us. Thank you, Julie.
And the raindrops tumble all around. to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't
That was the official conclusion, but Margot says she needs to say something. This is my granddaughter, Margot, the beautiful Margot.
Hi. I just remembered something when I was I 8 or 10? Okay, I was 10 and it was like my first trip alone anywhere really, and I had a family friend with me. She was just a couple years older than me, and I remember Liz was so elegant and poised. We spent Thanksgiving together, and we were in a friend's house in Brooklyn, and
Kate and Sam.
yeah, and they made this, I think it was mushroom soup, and my friend, she had said, oh, I'm allergic, so then I couldn't take that line because I'm not a big fan of mushrooms, and Liz just didn't say anything. She just took my bowl and she just started eating it and didn't draw any attention. It was so funny, and everyone was just laughing, and it was so, I don't know, very fun and happy atmosphere. And she also, on that trip, we did not eat dinner. We only ate cookies and milk every night. It was a really, really good trip, and it was just so amazing.
So a few days ago, Fats Domino died in New Orleans, and the first thing they do in New Orleans when someone like Fats Domino dies is they plan parties. Not just one party, but dozens of parties to honor Fats Domino. And today, at Liz's instruction, we are going to have a party starting at 2 o'clock. We called it a reception, but it's a party for Liz. And I don't think it's her last party, but 2 o'clock, Plainfield Country Club, let's have a party.